Hello, this is Steven Anderson. I'm now heading from Phoenix, Arizona to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where my grandma's originally from, to see if I can find any other clues about my family history. Finally found the cemetery, Arlington Cemetery in West Philadelphia. Just pulling in right now, heading to the office, and they said that they're going to be able to show me where Penn Mooney's grave is. And I'm hoping to also find the graves of Amos Mooney, his father, and his grandfather Amos Mooney, as well as several other relatives that are buried in the plot with them. Alright, here it is. Well, I just got here, and the gentleman showed me where it would be. Alright, here's the family plot and the tombstone of Penn Mooney. Let's see if we can zoom in here. Well, here I am at the grave of my great-grandfather, Penn Mooney, who was born in 1894 and died in 1928 at the age of only 34 years old. This is the father of my grandma, Helen Anderson. I asked my grandma how her dad died at the age of only 34, and she told me a story that Penn Mooney was a real estate agent, and he had a lot of business friends and colleagues, and they were all involved with the Freemasons, and they kept trying to get him to come and be a part of it. And so he started going to the meetings, and he was at a meeting one time, and they were taking Jesus' name in vain, and he stood up in the middle of the meeting and said, "That name that you keep cursing and using as a curse word happens to be my best friend and my savior." And he said, "I don't want anything to do with this place." And he got up and walked out, and 5 of his friends that had brought him actually walked out with him, and he won every single one of them to the Lord. Shortly thereafter, he got sick for no apparent reason and died, and my grandma is convinced that the Masons poisoned him, and probably rightly so. There are a few other relatives located nearby. We've got Ray and Julia Johnston, 1892 to 1963 for Ray, and 1893 to 1987 for Julia. And then let's see what else we got here. Grace K. Mooney, Helen M. Mooney, and Anthony D. Mooney. Now I noticed that by this grave for Ray Johnston, somebody had put some flowers here not too long ago, and so that shows that there must be some living relatives in this area that are visiting the grave. Ray Johnston is actually the man who my dad, Ray Anderson, is named after. My grandma was so fond of her Uncle Ray that she named her first daughter, Anita Ray Anderson, and then my dad, of course, Raymond Richard Anderson, after her uncle.
Oh, I'll tell you what we did.
So what happened to the church, though? What happened to the Overbrook Baptist Church?
Well, when they sold it to us, we took that sign down.
But, I mean, did they move?
Well, yeah.
Or did the church just...
No, they sold it to us.
And then they moved somewhere else?
They moved somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they moved out into a location where most of their members had moved to.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Just the neighborhood kind of changed?
Right. The neighborhood did change.
Okay.
As it stands right now, we got over 300 members, and we only have one white member.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And for some reason or other...
That's just the way the city's laid out,
yeah.
huh?
Well, he's more than welcome.
Sure, yeah.
You know.
Well, this is the house that Grandma was born in 1921. And it looks like instead of the real estate office in the bottom that Penn Mooney used to have, now there's a beauty salon. And it looks like it's called Hair Perfect Beauty Salon. And so I'm going to walk over there and see if anybody's home in the house side of it. And see if I can go in and look at Grandma's old house. So I'm taking a little jog over there right now. Alright, well, let's see if anybody's home. Well, it looks pretty dark. Doesn't seem like anybody's home today. Well, I'm at the cemetery in Nanjamoy, and this is the first time I've ever been to a cemetery where many of the tombstones are illegible. And so some of these great big ones, like this one here, don't have a single word on them, just little shadows where the words were once written. Now, this tombstone for Sarah Kendrick is extremely difficult to read, so what I'm having to do is use a toothbrush to try to scrub out some of the dirt and moss that's grown into the letters, because this is a very old tombstone, and it's also a poor quality tombstone. But thankfully I'm here at sunset, and this is actually the best time to read tombstones, is when the sun is going down and the shadows are falling. It's a lot easier to see what they say. Wow, now I'm in a totally different part of the cemetery, and I just found these great big giant tombstones. Isabella C. Kendrick, December 15th, 1862 to October 16th, 1944. And then right next to her is Peter W. Kendrick, September 21st, 1858 to September 16th, 1921. And then off here to the left is another one of the ones that's a little bit difficult to read. I'm going to try the best I can here. Carlton Rye Kendrick, February 21st, does that say 1896 to October 8th, 1898? Wow, that must have been a baby that died. I'm not sure if I'm reading that right. Let me check here. Yep, sure enough. 1896 to 1898. Here's another one in a completely different part of the cemetery. Sinji V. Kendrick, October 20th, 1874, July 6th, 1958. And right beside Sinji is this small little plaque for Leslie Kendrick. It says like May 10th, 1829. And then the second date is even harder to read. It's May 10th. Maybe it says 1829. And then below that, September. September what? September 11, that's what it is. So I can see these two grooves right here making 11. So we got September. Believe it or not, it's easier to see it through the lens of the camera than it is with my naked eye right now. September 11, 1906. Is that a 6? So let's see here. We got May 10th. Good night. That 8 is just good night. That 8 is just throwing me off. 1820.